proposed revisions that always seem to involve less respect for the rights of free nations and less freedom for the individual. These matters would be difficult under any circumstances. They are further complicated by a trend in Western countries away from global engagement and democratic confidence. Parts of Europe have developed an identity crisis. We have seen insolvency, economic stagnation, youth unemployment, anger about immigration, resurgent ethno-nationalism, and deep questions about the meaning and durability of the European Union. America is not immune from these trends. In recent decades, public confidence in our institutions has declined. Our governing class has often been paralyzed. The American dream of upward mobility seems out of reach for some who feel left behind in a changing economy. Bigotry seems emboldened. Politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets.
Now, as you may know, my running mate, Tim, is Catholic and went to Jesuit schools. And one of the things he and I have talked about is this idea from the Jesuits of the Magus, the more, the better.
Hello, everybody. Got another reading of Codeword Barbelon today with Jörg Blissman here in Belgium, and we are continuing on chapter, was it 32? Enemies of the State Unmasked Secret Plots Against America. And we are on page 323. Is that correct, Jörg?
That is correct, Brett. On the top of the page, starting a new subchapter, which is the last of this chapter, and that is called Catholic Action. Danger ahead. Stop. Look. Listen. Could have been me saying that.
Mm-hmm.
In 1948, the author continues here, the Apostolic Constitution bis seculari Dei declared the sodalities Catholic action. Antichrist Pope Pius XI called them lay apostolate and, quote, reaffirmed their Jesuit charism, i.e. Jesuit influence, unquote. He declared them a particular form of Catholic action. And his successor, Antichrist Pope Pius XII, Hitler's Pope Eugenio Pacelli, said, quote, the lay apostolate, like every other apostolate, has two tasks: to preserve and to conquer, unquote. Yeah, we have to understand that with this, the Roman Catholic Church understands everybody who is a devout Roman Catholic to be a spy for Rome.
Mm.
That's the point that's behind this.
Sure.
That's what you have to understand with the Catholic action. The sodalities are the vanguard of the so-called Catholic action, with the elite troops of the Jesuits behind. What, did I read that correct?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
Okay. Former Catholic priest Chiniquy explains, quote, in order to drill the Roman Catholics and prepare them for the final struggle, the Jesuits have organized them into a great number of secret societies. The Ancient Order of Hibernian, Apostles of Liberty, Knights of St. Peter, Knights of the Red Branch, etc., etc., etc. Almost all of these secret associations are military ones. They have their headquarters at San Francisco, but their rank and file are scattered all over the United States. They number, at that time, 700,000 soldiers who, under the name of U.S. Volunteer Militia, are officered by some of the most skillful generals and officers of this republic, which we can see on page 283 of this book if we go back. So just turn 50 pages back, and then you can read what P.D. Stewart is reading about here. Yeah? That was in the chapter Rome and the American Civil War, a Jesuit coup d'etat, where you can read on that. And we have to understand, you probably heard the term fifth column, right?
Yeah, I think, yes, I have. Mm-hmm.
So what we are calling here the quote-unquote Catholic action, the quote-unquote sodalities, this is the fifth column of the Roman Catholic Church.
Mm.
A underground army that they have that do their that do their fighting for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit earlier, didn't we read that it doesn't matter that even Catholics die in the Civil War because we have martyrs prepared to die for our cause?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the Jesuit general saying something like that?
Very likely. I don't remember exactly, but yes.
Well, the idea is, Brett, that you here and there keep a little bit of what we read.
Yes, but the problem is that if you're not familiar with the topic that you're talking about, it doesn't retain too well, Yerk. So
Well, anyway, we read about
that's
that.
the point.
That the
We're each
Jesuits,
gonna gather something different from the reading because that's kind of how consciences work, as far as I know, Yerk, is that if you're not familiar with what's being talked about, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Takes a
yeah,
while,
okay.
you know.
I hope, of course, that something of this will um, not be filtered and will be filtered and will stay within the place between the right and the left here before it enters the one and exits the other.
Yeah.
Because we were reading about that during the Civil War and the explanation of why would a Roman Catholic even go fight for this cause of the War of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because the Jesuit journal said we have always people ready for martyrdom. And those are the people that we are speaking about here right now. They are all
Right.
ready for martyrdom, and they are what you call the fifth column, the hidden army within a country, to
Right.
take the country over. As soon you have to, maybe you have to understand it a little bit like this. You remember in 1582, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
St. Bartholomew's massacre?
Yes.
Yeah, that was 1582, right?
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a secret agreement, all the Roman Catholics in France at that moment.
Oh, yes.
That's when in the night the church bells rang because of the wedding. That was the sign for them to come out with knives and guns and daggers and I don't know
everything you can imagine.
anything you can imagine to
Yeah.
kill the Protestants.
Yeah.
That is also a quote unquote fifth column,
Yeah.
And this is
that's
the same.
right.
This is the same about here.
I get it.
All right. Daniele Ganza, a Swiss researcher, wrote about this Gladio. So also something that maybe a term that you've heard about.
Sure.
And this Gladio, which is nothing else but the fifth column of NATO over Europe.
Yes.
It's exactly the same, but this is a fifth column of the Roman Catholic Church itself.
Mm-hmm.
These 700 people that we are speaking here about, they are really soldiers. They are.
Oh yes, 700,000 soldiers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At that time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They are just citizens of the United States, but when at the moment when the order comes, they will all turn into ravening wolves against real Bible-believing true Christians. That's the idea that you have to get off that. And they are all prepared to die because they get the order from the Pope of Rome. That's why I say it must be a devout Catholic.
Oh, yes.
And these devout Catholics are, of course, organized in these sodalities that we spoke about. And these sodalities are, by the Apostolic Constitution, Catholic action. Catholic action is action. You have to do something, and they are doing something, and they will do something.
Yes.
And Rome can count on this fifth column when the quote-unquote shit hits the fan over there in the United States.
Sure. I couldn't help but look up this term, sodality, Yerk, before we started today.
Mm-hmm.
And in this Universal Dictionary from 1937, it puts a year about 1600 that this definition was created. And it says a religious guild or brotherhood or I'm sorry, number 1, excuse me, association or confederation with others, brotherhood, companionship, fellowship.
Hmm.
And number 2 is religious guild or brotherhood established for purposes of devotion or mutually help or action. The body of persons forming such a society, 1600. So that's where the 1600 comes in. And it says sodality 1600 right at the top as well. So.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. This is a term that is linked to the Jesuit order, who were existent in 1600.
And then here
No?
it says a chapel 2B is a chapel used by religious sodality in 1667. And then number 3 is a society, association, or fraternity of any kind in 1633. So, yeah, very interesting
Yeah.
to me.
So we get the idea, and even a lot of people will understand when we speak about the quote-unquote fifth column. They will have an idea what that is, because that is a hidden army within the state or
Mhm.
nation that it has to operate in later on. That's a fifth column.
Yeah, but just the idea of a society, I mean, it just gives me the creeps, man.
Society or sodality? What's the difference?
I know. It's shocking.
Well, but there's no difference in that regard. So.
No, there isn't. That's right. You got it.
Now the author continues on the bottom of page 323. To Chinneky's list of secret societies or sodalities, so you see these are interchangeable words, secret societies or sodalities, we might add Skull and Bones, Opus Dei, the Knights of Columbus, the Knights of Peter Claver, Ancient Egyptian Order of Sciots, the Independent Order of Foresters, Catholic Order of Foresters, Ancient Order of Foresters, Knights of the Red Cross, Knights of St. John, Knights of Malta, the St. Leopold Foundation, and the Catholic League. A legion so vast and pervasive, even then the combined armed even then what? A legion so vast and pervasive, even there's a word missing in the sentence that doesn't make any sense. Even then the combined armed forces of the United States.
Yeah, that's kind of awkward, but that's kind of how the English language will do all these little jaunts like this. Yeah, it throws me too.
I think he forgot the word bigger. A legion so vast and pervasive, even bigger than the combined armed forces of the
Thank
United
you.
States.
That's a good point. Yes. Mm-hmm.
He just skipped the word here, and therefore the sentence doesn't make any sense. So you have to think about what word is missing here.
That's
But when
good. Thanks. That helps.
when he counts all the fraternities or sodalities that we just counted, they are a number. The people are a number much higher than all the armed forces of the United States combined.
Oh, yes.
The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Put them all together and they don't hold more people than this fifth column of the Roman Catholic Church. That's the point the author wants to make. He just omitted the word bigger, just forgot about it. It's not the first time that happened in this book, that some sentence doesn't make sense because there's a printing error. Okay?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So therefore it is important for us that we understand when we read this, that we have a little time to reflect on what we just read, to make sense of the sentence. A legion so vast and pervasive, even bigger than the combined armed forces in the United States of America, or even outnumbering the combined armed forces. But then the word then is too much, but I guess you get the gist. Speaking of his own church, Charles Chinneky wrote, quote, "It is to San Francisco that you must go to have an idea of the number of secret and powerful organizations with which the Church of Rome prepares for the impending conflict through which she hopes to destroy the schools and every vestige of human rights and liberties in the United States." Unquote. We quote verbatim now from the priests Father Sanborn and Hethlem. Said, quote unquote, Father Sanborn, quote, "It is clear that the Catholic Church condemns freedom of conscience. It is clear that the Catholic Church condemns freedom of religion. Freedoms are held as sacrosanct in the American culture. In an effort not to appear un-American, the Catholic clergy in the United States for the most part neglected these condemnations of religious and other freedoms, as well as of the Church. The only true Catholic stance in politics is to desire a constitution for one's country which recognizes the Roman Catholic Church as the one true church." Unquote. And this recognition, of course, you have in all the countries that have signed a concordat with the Vatican. Now, I am not aware of an official concordat between the United States of America and the Holy See, but I very much doubt that they do not have one.
Right. Say, Yerk, I got a quick comment.
Yeah, please.
Since I have the same volume that has the word sacrosanct in it, I looked it up, and it's a very interesting word. And the historical reference is 1601. Two words, sacro, and then sacrum, sacred rite, and sanctus. That might be a Latin word or something, or sancire, to render holy or inviolable, of persons and things, especially obligations, laws, etc., secured by religious sanction from violation or encroachment, invaluable, sacred, hence synchronicity, sacredness.
Okay, now try to explain that in your own words. Listen, sacrosanct doesn't mean anything else, but when you say it in plain English, that those are the basis or the basics or the pillars of where that nation is built upon. Yeah, and without these quote unquote holy, yeah, because sacrosanct from sanctus means holy. Without these holy or venerated pillars, the foundation crumbles. That's all it stands on. So sacrosanct means this is the absolute foundation where that nation is built upon. Yeah? The Roman Catholic Church, the quote says, condemns freedom of conscience and freedom of religion. Those freedoms are held as sacrosanct in the American culture. So the Americans hold these values, let's say, yeah, of these freedoms to their utmost importance. This is the absolute basis what America is built upon. That is what this sacrosanct means.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess this is
the
a little
foundation,
bit easier to
religious foundation.
a little bit easier to understand than your explanation from that
oh, sure.
From that encyclopedia, from the dictionary there. I mean,
yep.
We are not helped when you read this and nobody understands what you're reading, because sometimes these encyclopedias put this in words that you even need another encyclopedia to understand what is written in there. But I appreciate that you look that up, but I hope that we now cleared this, what sacrosanct is actually meant. So these are the holy pillars on what the nation of the United States of America is built on: the freedom of conscience and the freedom of religion. And the Catholic Church condemns exactly these freedoms. That's the point we were going to make here. Okay. Do you have anything else, Brett, or shall I continue?
Please continue.
Read next the private words of Father Hethlin to Professor Milford. Father Hethlin says, quote, "The Roman state and church wink at the claims of the United States government of heretics, for it is expedient for the purposes of Rome that this Protestant nation go in their blind confidence of security, while Catholics prepare for the great conflict." Unquote. That is very well put, eh?
Oh,
that
man.
this Protestant nation go on in their blind confidence. That's what they have. Blind confidence. The American people have blind confidence in that their quote unquote leaders are really doing a job for their prosperity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that just proves scripture, doesn't it? Isn't that in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 or 2?
I wouldn't
Let me
know.
look that up. I'll look it up and you can
Yeah.
keep going.
Now, Professor Melton replies, then you Catholics expect a violent conflict? At what time, Father Hathlin? Hathlin replies, when the Pope shall anathematize the government of the United States. I know not when that shall be, but I know that it will be, and that, too, not far in the future. By that act of Pope, every Roman Catholic will be absolved from his oath of allegiance to the United States government. What I say here in a private must be regarded as private and not intended for the public. Now, when the Pope shall anathematize the government of the United States, Father Hathlin says here. Well, the Pope has already anathematized the government of the United States with the Syllabus of Errors of 1864 and his papal bull Quanta Cura of 1864. Yeah? They're all free governments. And by free, we mean free of the yoke of Rome, were anathematized by the Pope. So that's already a long time ago. But you see, when the Pope was in the United States of America and speaking to a joint session of Congress in 2015, I can't believe that's already almost 3 years ago.
I know, it's remarkable,
how
isn't
time
it?
flies.
Yes, it
How
does.
time flies. It's incredible.
It's remarkable.
When he was there, he was speaking from the quote-unquote seat of Moses to the legislators of your country and telling them, you do what I say or else. Yeah? That was this whole visit all about. So when Father Hathlin says here, when the Pope shall anathematize the government of the United States, well, he did that already. I know when that shall be, so when, okay, then Father Hathlin should maybe read the Syllabus of Errors, then he maybe knows that. But I know that it will be, and that too not far in the future. Well, this book where this is taken from is from 1894. Yeah, that was published. So we are speaking about 2015 when that was, but we are speaking about just 30 years after the Syllabus of Errors was published by Antichrist Pope Pius IX, Pio Nono. So he had a chance, of course, to read that because it's something you read in the footnote that this is taken from a Christian company from 1894, or from the book A Romans of Rome, Rule and Ruin. Anyway, the conversation between Milford and Hathlin continues, with Milford replying, and what will be the result of this event? Yeah, you know, the event of what he just said here, of course, to anathematize the government of the United States. What will be the result of this event? Father Hathlin replies, what will follow? Everything will follow for which we have worked and suffered and waited. At that time, Catholics will rise up, and the Pope of Rome will plant his palace here. Unquote. Now, you see, this is what he already did, because when you look at the Capitol is a mirror image of St. Peter's Basilica.
Exactly.
And they are both temples of Jupiter.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Yes. Yep, that's right.
So that already happened a long time in the past. But of course, this is up to now, quote unquote, hidden knowledge. Yeah, people are not told that this is the way it is. But then at that time, the Catholics will come out for it. Now, why did he speak so quiet about this in 1894, where this quote from is taken? Well, because in 1894, the Catholics were not in the majority in the United States.
No, that's right. Yes.
They come from 1% in 1776 to officially today in 2018 some 35% of the population. But, and that of course makes the Roman Catholic Church the biggest quote-unquote Christian denomination of the churches. Yeah,
Sure.
there's not one denomination bigger than that. But of course, we know Roman Catholicism is not Christian, and Roman Catholicism cannot be called a denomination. And all the other Protestant churches cannot be called a denomination because they are all harlot daughters who came back under the wings of Rome because of the ecumenical Second Vatican Council from 1962 through 1965. And because this ecumenical council, and because President Reagan turned east to the obelisk during his inauguration in 1981, giving the sign to the Jesuits all over the world that all American quote-unquote Protestant churches had been infiltrated and taken over by the Jesuits successfully, you cannot count this official quote-unquote 35% of Catholics in the United States of America. You also have to count all the quote-unquote Protestant churches, Baptists, Methodists, I don't know what all kinds of names you have over there for all these churches, all these big mega churches, these mega churches of Kenneth Copeland, these mega churches of Benny Hinn, of Joel Osteen.
Yes. Say, Yerk,
All these.
would it be fair to say that all the sodalities?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you
I
got
mean,
it.
we just learned sodality. Why don't we use it?
Yeah. They are all part of the sodality, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
you have had a preacher for 50 years in the United States of America preaching Protestants to come back to Rome under the name of Billy Graham.
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
That was the work of
High-level
sodality.
Freemason, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
High-level Freemason. That, of course, was the work of sodality.
Yes, it is. Absolutely right.
You know,
Ancient
even
sodality.
though that many of these Protestants say, well, I don't swear my allegiance to the Pope of Rome, I swear my allegiance to my church. Yeah, but the leaders of your church swore their allegiance already to the church.
But if you're sitting there reciting the Apostles' Creed with the rest of the congregation every Sunday, like I was for how many years? Hello, it's right there, smack in your face.
Absolutely.
And you're just going to repeat that every week and not think about it? Come on. That's what they're counting on.
Mm-hmm. And now, of course, they have even more support with these immigrants that come from South and Latin America, you know? So Latin America and South America and Middle America, Mexico, via the Mexican border, all these people that come over there, they are all Catholics.
That's right. Yep.
And these Catholics have paid their allegiance already to the Pope of Rome.
Sure.
So they turned this 1% that they were part of the population in 1776. They turned through immigration on the one hand and through ecumenism on the other hand into a vast majority.
Oh, yes. Ecumenism and actually the music actually fueled that too. You know, if you look at the musical aspect of the 60s and flower power and the hippies and all that, you add all that up and it adds into one big, what do you call, mixing the holy with the profane here.
Yeah, you are speaking about the New Age movement.
Yes, right.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call it. You know, it doesn't matter what name you give to the shit. As long as it is the same substance and the same color, it's the same shit, right?
It is. It stinks. It smells bad.
It stinks the same way. It has the same consistency. You know, it doesn't matter if it is red, blue, yellow,
if it's
green,
brown,
or white.
flush it down, man. Get it out of here.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter if it is colored red, blue, yellow, green, white, whatever color it is. It is the substance you have to look at. It is the smell you have to look at. And then you can see whether it is shit or it is not shit. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Oh?
Yep. Yeah, and if we're going to clean up our spiritual house, we got to get rid of that shit.
An egg stays an egg, whether you paint it red or you leave it white the way it comes naturally. It still stays an egg, right?
That's right. Good way to put it.
So P.D. Stewart says, and maybe he will confirm a little bit what we just spoke about. Reader, Do you understand what you've just read? Or listener and viewer of this video, do you understand what you've just heard? The time is not far away when the faithful Roman Catholics of the Republic of the United States will, at the order of the Antichrist, exert their influence and power to the fullest extent in favor of their church's cause. And this order will be obeyed as if it were a command from God Himself. Jesus Christ warned us in His Epistle of Matthew, where He said, "They will throw you out of the synagogues, and they will persecute you, and they will look to kill you, and they will think they will do God's work." Today, there are millions of intelligent Americans who, despite what they may say publicly, believe in and maintain as a most sacred article of faith the most monstrous innovation of the Jesuits, the infallibility of the Pope. And who, instead of thinking for themselves, allow a mitred priest in Italy to tell them which politician to vote for, what to think, and when to be absolved from their oath of allegiance to the United States. Read here what the Catholic Church, waxing bold, once said of itself, quote, "Many non-Catholics fear us as a political organization, and they are afraid that the Catholic Church will dominate and rule. We are working quietly, seriously, and I may say effectively to that end." Unquote. The Catholic magazine, The Missionary, June 1909, page 69. And I just can't help. I have to open up a picture here.
Mhm.
Just give me a moment that I can get that picture up. I have to wake my disc from sleep.
Sure, no problem.
This is a quote. I think we spoke about that already last time,
Mhm.
from the Chicago Daily Tribune, May 5th, 1903, by Archbishop James E. Quigley,
Oh,
who
yeah.
said, and I have to read that very carefully because the resolution is not so good, so I have to take the binoculars here to see that better. Within 20 years, speaking in 1903, Archbishop Quigley said, "Within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place." Well, he doesn't tell you, of course, that the democracy of the United States is nothing else but a dictatorship under the guise of democracy.
Mhm.
When the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. Nothing can stand against the Church. I'd like to see the politician who would try to rule against the Church in Chicago. His reign would be short indeed. And everybody can look that quote up if you don't believe me. And it's very easy to find that one, and I have pictures of that. Even
It's a good one. Yep.
Original article, and of course, this quotation that I just read to you with the picture of this Archbishop James E. Quigley, who lived between 1854 and July 10th, 1915, and made this statement in the Chicago Daily Tribune in May 5th, 1903. And that is just a confirmation of what we just read here in this book. You know?
Mhm.
So this was from the Catholic magazine, The Missionary, on June 1909, just 6 years after what we just read from Bishop Quigley. As one writer so profoundly observed, this is P.D. Stewart continuing in his book with a quote, "The Roman Catholic Church, with all its ramifications, forms one vast organization under the control and designed to serve the interests of the Papal See. Its millions of communicants in every country on the globe are instructed to hold themselves as bound in allegiance to the Pope. Whatever their nationality, Whatever their government, they are to regard the authority of the Church as above all other. Though they may take the oath pledging their loyalty to the state, yet back of this lies the vow of obedience to Rome, absolving them from every pledge inimical to their interests, to her interests. Unquote. Now, you have to understand that the things that we read about in the oaths of the Jesuits, in the vows of the Supreme, the oath of how do we say that? The oath of I don't come to that word, but you know the oath that I was speaking about of the Jesuits.
Extreme oath, or
the extreme oath.
Oath of fourth vow of induction. Is that what?
Induction, yes, induction. I was always with indulgence. I said no,
right.
That's not it.
Yeah, professed of the fourth vow. Yeah,
yeah, the professed of the fourth vow. Everything that you read in that oath, in a quote unquote little weaker form, is a oath that every Roman Catholic takes as a contribution to his church. Okay, they don't say that they will extirpate and
annihilate heresy,
extirpate and annihilate heresy and Protestants all over the world, and that they will hang, boil, sway, and do all that stuff like the Jesuits do. No, of course not. But they swore a minor rank and minor oath. And the point is that the oath of the Roman Catholic Church, or to the Roman Catholic Church, actually overrules all other oaths. And it is for a Roman Catholic then no sin to swear another oath because he knows that his transgression, quote unquote, will be forgiven by the Pope because he sees and counts the oath to the Roman Catholic Church of higher value than any other oath. That is how the President of the United States of America, and for that any other politician, can stand there openly in his inauguration, whether putting his hands on the Bible or not, and swear that he will defend and fight for the people who elected him in that country, and that he will defend the liberties of the United States of America or whatever country that president is serving, like Merkel does with her oath in Germany, like the Prime Minister here in Belgium does here in Belgium. It's all over the world. It's the same thing, and these oaths are not even worth the time that they need to be spoken out, because they are worth absolutely nothing, because the oaths that these people pay as allegiance to the Roman Catholic Church supersede all these other oaths. And this is what P.D. Stewart wants to make clear here in this part of his book, and what he wants to make clear with this different citations that he gives us here, like the one that we just read here. Though they may take the oath pledging their loyalty to the state, yet back of this lies the vow of obedience to Rome, absolving them from every pledge inimical to their interests, to her interests. So that means it is not even a sin to take another oath and to tell to a whole country probably that you will defend their liberty, where actually you have sworn to the Roman Catholic Church that you will do just the opposite of that. It is not even a sin. You don't even need to go to the confession for that. You don't even need to buy an indulgence for that. Huh? You are forgiven because the vow you pay to the obedience of Rome is superseding all other vows. And the Catholic world, endorsed by the highest dignitaries of the Church, including the Antichrist, in an article of July 1870, that's the time of the Vatican Council, where the infallibility of the Pope was proclaimed, states, quote, "The supreme duty of Catholics is to obey the Pope and seek in every way and especially by means of the ballot, to render the Catholic policy effective in this country." Unquote. All Catholics must make themselves felt as active elements in the daily political life in the countries where they live. All Catholics should exert their power to cause the constitution of the states to be modeled on the principles of the true Church. Pope Leo XIII, successor of Pio IX, in his encyclical letter of 1890. All Catholics, I'm going to read this again, understand me well. This is not a conspiracy theory that Jörg just comes up with.
That's
I'm not
right.
sucking on my thumb and telling you this. This is all Catholics should exert their power to cause the constitution of the states to be modeled on the principles of the true Church. The Antichrist says so himself in black and white on paper. Yeah? And you can read that for yourself. What did he actually say here? All Catholics should exert their power to cause the constitution of the states to be equal to Roman Catholic canon law.
Yeah, that's right.
This is, in other words, easier said.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and there goes your freedom.
There
Bye-bye
goes our
freedom
all,
of conscience. Bye-bye freedom of religion.
Yeah, little
Bye-bye
leaven leavens
freedom
a
of
whole
speech.
lump. The leaven
Bye-bye
of the
freedom of the
Pharisees and
press.
Sadducees. Yeah, exactly.
Bye-bye. All gone.
Same principle. Yeah. Yeah, that's
All
right.
Catholics should exert their power to the cause of the Constitution of the State to be modeled on the principles of the true Church. So that means at least the 35% of the inhabitants that you have over there today, and all the closet Catholics, which are all the ecumenical evangelibellies.
That's right. Yep. Yep.
That
They're all
have
subservient,
rejected
whether they know it or not.
Yes, they are.
They are.
Absolutely. Because they will do what their pastor tells them.
Yes, they
And
will.
their pastor is Jesuitically educated and trained.
And futurists to top it all off.
Yeah, also, of course.
Yeah, it all adds up.
The Pope is not the Antichrist. The Antichrist is some person that comes far, far away in the future.
Yeah.
And I don't have to care for that because I'll be raptured out here anyway. See ya.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a big delusion.
As to what end was explained by Antichrist Pius IX in his syllabus of 1865, the one that I mentioned before, the syllabus of errors, quote, "The Church has the right to require that the Catholic religion shall be the religion of the state to the exclusion of all others." Now, this is just a repetition of what Constantine said in 321, when he made Christianity the legal and only state religion of the pagan Roman Empire at that time. He couldn't defeat it, so he made that the state required religion. And what followed in 325 was the Council of Nicaea, where that was invested. There you have it.
Yes.
Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new.
No.
No.
Even Antichrist Pope Pius IX in his syllabus doesn't say anything else but what Constantine said already in 321. In other words, but the essence is the same. What did we say? Same shit, different color, eh? But still stays shit, right?
Yeah, it does.
In view of these bold and official pronouncements from the Catholic Church and several of her popes, what are we to do? Can anyone be faulted for agreeing with Dr. J.R. Rowe when he says in his book Nehushtan, A Romans of Rome, that every person who holds any mental reservation in favor of the Pope, while outwardly swearing allegiance to the United States, should not be permitted to hold any office in the gift of the American people. In the gift of the American people. Yeah, with this, we are inclined to agree. Holding mental reservation. That's just the point that I forgot when we were speaking about this other quote that read,
Oh.
though they may take the oath pledging their loyalty to the state, yet back of this lies the vow of obedience to Rome, absolving them from every pledge inimical to their interests because of that mental reservation and equivocation. Very important. Turn to the coronation oath in England
Mm.
and turn to the original 1913 Roman Catholic Encyclopedia, which deals with that part. And there it is written word for word that it is forbidden to use any mental reservation or equivocation when speaking this oath.
That's right.
So Dr. J.R. Rowe tells us here that every person who holds any mental reservation in favor of the Pope or outwardly serving allegiance to the United States should not be permitted to hold an office in the gift of the American people. But the problem is, Dr. Rowe, these people won't tell you that they are holding mental reservations.
Of course not.
I mean, then it was easy, you know?
Yeah, right.
Imagine this bastard Trump or Obama or Bush
Yeah.
or whatever, when
Oh,
they were
yeah.
president, they
Yeah.
were at their inauguration, and the guy who holds up the Bible and reads the formula that
Oh, yeah.
that the president has to repeat, and he first asks, now, Mr. President to be or President elect or whatever, you will not use any equivocation or mental reservation after speaking and repeating what I speak to you now, right? What does the president elect then answer?
Of
No,
course. Yes.
of course not. What is mental reservation? I have never heard of this. I have no idea what you're talking about. Come on, let's go on. Give me the Bible. Hands down, and I swear whatever you want.
That's right. That's right.
Of course, Dr. Rowe is right, but nobody ever who is in the situation of swearing these oaths will ever tell you that they are using mental reservation because they are on another oath. No, the point is very clearly, we know that they all will use mental reservation when they are part of a, we didn't use that word a long time, sodality.
Yes. Thank you.
When they are in any way, shape, or form are connected to the Roman Catholic Church, then you cannot have anyone standing there speaking any oath, because always they will use mental reservation and equivocation on that oath that they need to speak. Just don't use anyone who is under the yoke of Rome. Now, the problem is, of course, you have no alternative. Because everybody who is running for president is under the yoke of Rome, has the confirmation of the Pope that he can do that job, because otherwise he wouldn't even go for it.
That's right.
Whether he's a Democrat, whether he's a Republic, whether he comes from a Tea Party or he's an independent, doesn't matter.
Nope, doesn't matter.
They all have the authority from Rome to do that. That's why Rome does not care who wins, because Rome always wins.
Yep. It just makes you wonder, Yerk, what the next presidential Al Smith dinner will have in store, if we even have one. I always say that every time we have an election. Will we even have another election? I don't know.
Maybe that witch Clinton is popping up again.
Yeah, right. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, let's see. Anyway, the author continues now. Yet we are told by Tupper Saucy in his book Rulers of Evil that at one time in the recent past, almost the entire Senate Foreign Relations Committee was governed by Roman Catholics. Yes, this leads to chapter 1 of Rulers of Evil, Subliminal Rome. And this is so wonderful to read. Tupper Saucy not only mentions the entire Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but he mentions all the people who are busy with all the things that are controlled, all the daily things that are controlled, the banking, the medicine, the transport,
Oh,
the
that's
education.
right.
That is
Yes,
subliminal Rome,
that's
that very
right.
first chapter. It's
Yes,
such a wonderful chapter, and
that's
I mean
right.
we are only about 50 minutes in here. We still have the possibility to read that. Just
Take your
let me.
time. I don't worry about time today. We can go 2
No, but
hours. Doesn't matter to me.
no, I'm not going for 2 hours. But it's just that I don't want to leave it too big a pause because I'm searching for something here in my computer to read something to you. But
Mm-hmm.
with P.D. Stewart saying this here already, I mean, this is absolutely a moment to pick up the book Rulers of Evil and to speak about what Tapasauci here actually said. So let me just take a moment here. I have it already open. I'm that fast, yeah.
Good, good.
So P.D. Stewart says, yet we are told by Tapasauci, of course, out of his book Rulers of Evil, that at one time in the recent past, speaking about the Almanac of 1992, the entire Senate Foreign Relations Committee was governed by Roman Catholics. And he says here, it refers to page 12 of Rulers of Evil. Well, I have here chapter 1 open, Subliminal Rome, and I'm going to read to you from Rulers of Evil the following excerpt. So this is Rulers of Evil. Listen very closely. Where's the start? In fact, when the Holy Alliance story hit the stands, there was virtually no arena of federal legislative activity, according to the 1992 World Almanac of US Politics, that was not directly controlled by a Roman Catholic senator or representative. In other words, that was not directly controlled by the sodality.
Mm-hmm.
The committees and subcommittees of the United States Senate and House of Representatives governing, and now comes, listen closely, governing commerce, communications and telecommunications, energy, medicine, health, education and welfare, human services, consumer protection, finance and financial institutions, transportation, labor and unemployment, hazardous materials, taxation, bank regulation, currency and monetary policy, oversight of the Federal Reserve System, commodity prices, rents services, small business administration, urban affairs, European affairs, Near Eastern and South Asian affairs, terrorism, narcotics, international communications, international economic, international trade, oceans, environmental policy, insurance, housing, community development, federal loan guarantees, economic stabilization measures, including wage and price controls, gold and precious metals transactions, agriculture, animal and forestry industries, rural issues, nutrition, price supports, food for peace, agricultural exports, soil conservation, irrigation, stream channelization, flood control, minority enterprise, environment and pollution, EPA, appropriations, defense, foreign operations, vaccines, drug labeling and packaging, drug and alcohol abuse, inspection and certification of fish and processed food, use of vitamins and saccharin, national health insurance proposals, human services, legal services, family relations, the arts and humanities, the handicapped and aging. In other words, virtually every every aspect of secular life in America came under the chairmanship of one of these Roman Catholic lay persons. End quote of Tapasorsi's book, Rulers of Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the Almanac of 1992, when he published the book in 2001. Gonna continue in this book, Codeword Barbelon. Quote, in fact, in 1992, there was virtually no arena of federal legislative activity, according to the 1992 World Almanac of U.S. Politics, that was not directly controlled by a Roman Catholic senator or representative. Virtually every aspect of secular life in America, and I just read them all to you, came under the chairmanship of one of these Catholic laypersons. But the Bishop of St. Louis has warned us. If Catholics ever gain a sufficient numerical majority in this country, religious freedom is at an end. So our enemies say, so we believe. And this is quoted from the Shepherd of the Valley official journal of the Bishop of St. Louis, November 23rd, 1851. Now, on a calm survey of this evidence, can you reasonably disagree that papists ought to be required to publicly renounce their foreign allegiance and anti-republican doctrines if they are to be given any office of state? What did we just read? Yes, listen again, listen closely. On a calm survey of this evidence, can you reasonably disagree that papists or Roman Catholics ought to be required to publicly renounce their foreign allegiance and anti-republican doctrines if they are to be given any office of state? Well, I would go even further. They are not only to renounce their foreign allegiance, because they can do that with equivocation and mental reservation, but they have to turn away from that idolatrous and superstitious Roman Catholic religion officially, and not only in words, but also in deeds.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up a 1611 King James Bible,
Mm-hmm.
have a Bible study at their home, accept Jesus Christ as their Savior and their King and their Lord, and then they are maybe in a position to be in any kind of authority over somebody else. Former Catholic priest Chiniquy revealed that the Pope has a number of secret and powerful organizations, sodalities, with which the Church of Rome prepares for the impending conflict, through which she hopes to destroy every vestige of human rights and liberties in the United States. And who is orchestrating it all? Chiniquy says these secret societies are all drilled by the ubiquitous hands of the Jesuits.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman Catholic General Lafayette, the so beloved general under General then President George Washington, remind you, a Roman Catholic and Jesuit-educated General Lafayette wrote, quote, "It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Roman Catholic Jesuit priests, for they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty." Unquote. Jeremiah J. Crowley, who we spoke about the other day during our Bible study, Brett.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Who was a priest for over 20 years of the Roman Catholic religion, that is then, of course, warned, quote, "Today the Jesuits are stronger in the United States than they were in any of the countries of Europe which expelled them as a menace to the government." And why are they stronger in the United States than they were in any of the other European countries which expelled them? Because the Jesuits actually founded that country. They are on the basis of it. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
The Jesuits are, for the Roman Catholic movement in the United States of America, sacrosanct.
Mm-hmm.
Get it?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Shouldn't they be expelled from America also?
Yeah.
But when you take away the foundation of the country, what do you have left?
Nothing.
Nothing. It will all crumble in itself. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But as some witty person once said, it is better to resist the devil than to attempt to turn him out of the house. That is most true. Resist the devil, says St. James, and he will flee from you, as we can read in the beloved King James Bible of 1611, in the book of James, chapter 4, verse 7. For the devil always flees before stout resistance. But, alas, that is not true of the men called Jesuits. Resist the Jesuit, and he will fly at you.
Good. Wow. So P.D. Stewart actually used some Bible verse here. Great.
Finally.
Good. That's fantastic. About time, right, Jörg?
Yeah, I was just giving a comment on that during our Bible study last Saturday, remember?
That's right. Yes, you were.
Said,
And this is great.
Ever he refers to the Bible. Now he proved me wrong on page 326. Finally, thank you.
Yes, thank you, P.D. Stewart. Thank you for writing this book, this very intriguing book, I must add.
This few pages of this last chapter,
yeah,
called Enemies of the State Unmasked, has taken a much more interesting turn than I supposed it would do at the starting of the reading today. I'm very glad that we read this, Brett, and I'm also very glad that we're done with this little chapter.
Yeah.
Because now we can turn to the magical number 33.
Yes.
In the next chapter, Does It Still Exist? Skeletons from 1776. But for today, for this broadcast at least, I want to bring this to an end. I want to thank everybody for watching the video and listening to the reading and the explanation and the discussion. And also, of course, for your contribution if you are about to make any comment, whether on Brett's channel where this is uploaded or on one of my channels where this eventually will be uploaded. Because I haven't done that up to today yet, but I'm going to start very shortly. Thanks for all that, and never forget to do your own research. First and for all, pick up your Bible, make sure it is an authorized version of 1611 King James Bible, and then read along in these secular books like Codeword Barbelon, like Rulers of Evil, like Roman Civil Liberty, like Romanism and the Reformation. There are so many books, I can't even name them all, but they are all worth your while when you measure them next to the Bible.
That's right.
And that, I want to leave my contribution on my part for this reading today, Brett. I want to say goodbye, and it will leave to you the final sentences, the final closing remarks of today's broadcast of the reading. I'm just looking forward to see you all back when we go into chapter 33, which is called Skeletons from 1776. Until then, God bless you, and Maranatha.
That for the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people. Literally, it was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control.
We're at the very beginning stages of a very brutal and bloody conflict. And I believe that we've come horribly off track in the years since the fall of the Soviet Union. And we're starting now in the 21st century, which I believe strongly is a crisis both of our church, a crisis of our faith, a crisis of the West, and a crisis of capitalism.
His son Jesus is here in our midst. His bride, the church, is honored to host an event affirming the dignity of the human person and the sacredness of all human life.
I think Russia is no longer a communist state, first of all. That's very important to realize. It hasn't yet defined itself, however, effectively as a democracy. It is still uncertain.
We're at the very beginning stages of a very brutal and bloody conflict, of which if the people in this room and the people in the church do not bind together and really form what I feel is an aspect of the church militant, if the people in this room and the people in the church do not bind together and really form what I feel is an aspect of the church militant, to really be able to not just stand with our beliefs, but to fight for our beliefs against this new barbarity that's starting, that we will literally eradicate everything that we've been bequeathed over the last 2,025 years.
You didn't mention the president by name, but it was hard not to conclude that that's who you were referring to. Is that fair?
I was certainly referring to the threats that we are now facing with this stated goals of this administration, which would upset the last 70 years of a new world order which was established after World War II. 70 years based on human rights, respect for the law, free trade, all of the things, aspects of this world order that took place after one of the most horrific, terrible wars in history, and I'm for maintaining it.
We are grateful to be citizens of one nation under God, who acclaim this evening that in God we trust. Bless our two candidates, our benefactors, and those whom the L. Smith Foundation has been honored to serve for 7 decades. Guide us safely home, both this evening and for all eternity, through Christ our Lord. Amen.